So I ran a shop for a while, but the gentleman that's coming on this podcast ran many more shops for much longer than I did. I've actually known Dan since I was literally in high school. We have a long history together. We work together. Our paths diverged, but kind of converged back here. So Dan's our chief operating officer. He's the second in command here in the entire company. He knows what's going on, especially on the day-to-day basis. The man is just a wealth of knowledge how truck repair shops should work. He has turned around so many truck repair shops. I've always joked we should do like one of those bar rescues, but a shop rescue, and have Dan go in there and work with these people. But very knowledgeable guy. If you want to connect with him after, the best way to do it is either go on LinkedIn or email us at thedl.com. But otherwise, like, comment, share, subscribe. I think you're going to learn a ton during this episode. Can't wait for you to watch it and listen. All right, here we go, everybody. Another episode of the DL. We are here today talking about shop efficiency would be a good word for it. We do diagnostic efficiency, repair efficiency. A lot of people inside this building that have worked in a lot of repair shops. I was a service manager only for a couple of years, but I brought in like the second in command of the company. A lot of people probably, I don't know, this is probably your first time on camera.
It is, yeah. I've been able to avoid it this long.
Yeah. So I have Dan here with me today. So Dan Naynas, he's our Chief Operating Officer at Diesel Laptops. Don't let the title fool you. He has worked inside truck shops for more years than probably care to admit at this point. I think we're both getting kind of old here.
Yeah, I know. It's all told, I guess it was about 21 years at the OEM dealership level. So a lot of opportunity there, a lot of chance to see a lot of things, working from anything, from the most basic to the most complex, warranty stuff, all the way into, customer pay for various modes. But definitely loved it. It was a great experience, and it was a catalyst to get me into this business. So loved it.
So I want to talk about the process in the repair shop a little bit, because I think what I see, at least with a lot of independent shops, is they're doing the work, they're getting the work out the door, but there's a lot of room for efficiencies and some improvements in there. And there's actually amazing how much improvement can be had. I met a guy once, and he always did this bet. I can't remember exactly what it was, like some bottle of nice alcohol or some liquor or something. He's like, I guarantee you, if I walk through the shop, I will bet you this bottle. If I walk through your shop and not even 50% of your guys are actually touching a truck right now.
Yeah,
and
true.
because I never lost the bet.
Yeah, true. The kind of the keyword or buzzword that came around a few years ago is all about throughput. So it's kind of the whole concept of from the time the vehicle makes it into the yard until the time it leaves, and you factor in how long does it take to get it written up, how long does it take for triage, to get the repair order open, dispatched, how long from the time the technician first touches it until they put in a parts request, how many hours from the time it arrives until you can make a first contact with the customer and let them know what they're looking at. They got to be able to make a business decision. So that efficiency is critical, right? The dwell time, how long does it take from the time you place a parts request, you've actually got the parts in-house, you can make the repair. Another dwell time metric is how long from the time you send an estimate out to the customer for approval do they actually get back to you and give you that authorization. So when it really comes down to it, there's so many different facets of that repair shop business that can be studied and analyzed, and looking for opportunities to improve and make that stuff better for the customer. But at the end of the day, if your iron is just sitting there on the yard not being repaired, you've got room for improvement. Whether that be maybe your staff needs training and some additional resources, or maybe you're just overscheduled or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the service manager, the shop owner, whoever's in charge, they got to have an understanding of how many hours they have to sell each day. What is their capacity? What can they tell the customer? And the customers will keep coming back if they think they're getting good information. It might not be information they want. They might not find out like, hey, your truck will be fixed in 15 minutes. But when they're able to plan around it and decide if they've got to repower a load, maybe they've got to get a rental truck because they don't have a backup or whatever that is, the sooner they know, the better it is for their business, and they will choose your shop again and again over somebody else's where it's just kind of a black hole and they never hear anything.
So let's talk about a couple, facets of of things that can be done inside a repair shop, because it's usually not the technician working fast or fixing the truck. That's usually not the problem. It's all the other things that impact that technician's ability to stay working on the truck to actually do these things and be efficient. So let's talk about a pre and post scan. So I think it's a common word in the automotive world. I think in the auto body world, especially as well, they're used to doing pre and post scans for insurance companies and getting paid for them. OEM dealerships have started to do it over the last several years as well. Explain to everyone what a pre and post scan actually is, or how you guys were using it in the previous dealerships you worked at.
Yeah, so the pre-scan, basically we wanted to capture just to make sure that we have a snapshot and understanding of what the condition of the vehicle was when it came in. And our pre-scan data a lot of times was the active and inactive fault codes that were present. We would want to capture, what were the fluid levels. So a lot of those reports will tell you, the current fuel capacity in the truck. That could play later when the vehicle's getting picked up and the customer says, hey, when I came in, I didn't have this problem, but now I do. Yep. And you can go back and say, well, actually, you had 67 fault codes for that exact problem. So, you just kind of have to protect your business and protect your time from people that are going to try to take advantage of you. So the pre-scan and being able to prove, look, this is what you brought us, this is what you asked us to do. And then at the same time, it's also an opportunity to maybe have some upsell. So they come in and say, I've got this ABS light on. We're going to check it out and go, well, you've actually got 3 other lights as well. These are the codes we're looking at. We can go ahead and take a peek at it. Give the customer the opportunity to decline that versus expecting them to tell you about what all their problems are. And keep in mind, a lot of times the people that are making the arrangements to bring the truck to you, they don't operate it. They're only going off the information that the driver's provided. The driver drops it off. He says, I'm not even sure why I brought it, because it was my manager who made the appointment. So having that information that we can share back and forth with the customer. The post scan, kind of in the similar vein, is we want to have a picture of what that vehicle was doing when we decided we were done with it. Repairs complete, codes are cleared, vehicles parked. And again, if we need to go back and have that conversation with the customer, when it showed up, it had 63% fuel in it, and it's got 63% fuel in it now. And there's going to be a variance there too, because a lot of the tests and things that we do require fuel usage. So if you've got to run parked stationary regens, maybe you've got to do some extended test driving for the concern, you may go through some fuel. But the main thing you don't want to do is have a customer that thinks that their vehicle's been in your yard and the fuel's been siphoned off and, hey, I just filled up before I got here. Why am I empty? Those conversations are not fun as somebody who's, running the repair shop. You've got a lot better things to do than second guess what's going on, after hours on your lot or something like that. So if you can compare the post scan to the pre-scan, validate what you did was correct, and also explain to the customer that maybe the perception they have wasn't, accurate, it can definitely save you time and money, because in the olden days, usually the only way you could solve some of those issues was with the checkbook, and that's costly. Definitely don't want to get involved in that stuff if possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nicest way to say, no, customer, you're wrong. Maybe you have a common misperception.
Yeah. And at that point, it's not an opinion. It's not anything but fact. We have a report that tells us what the situation was, and we have another one that tells us what it is now. And in the case where that does go wrong, it's not like the shop is always right. I wasn't right every time. Yeah. But in the case where we go, all right, so you're here to pick your vehicle up, and it's got this problem. What changed between when we ran the post scan and said it was good to now? Sometimes just find out, well, it had gone inactive, or the vehicle had to get up, over 10 miles an hour for it to set, and we just moved it across the yard to park it. So there are situations where we go, you know what, we need to roll the red carpet out for this customer and get it right back in because we haven't fulfilled our obligation. But the last thing you want to do is be donating money back to a vehicle that it's not your property, right? You just definitely want to make sure that you can cover that. So in the old days, it would take hours. I'd have to, go and talk to the technician and each one. And sometimes now the guy that worked on it is off shift, so you can't get a hold of them. Scour through the technician notes, which aren't always the clearest. Go and talk to whoever was supervising the shop at the time and try to piece together what actually happened, so you can have a conversation with the customer based on that. Now you can just go look at the pre and post scans, maybe read a couple tech notes. You don't have to reach out and call a bunch of people, and you can actually make a decision and say, yep, we're guilty here. We did not fix the truck properly. We need to get it back in. Or you can say, well, the concern you have is not what you asked us to fix, or you declined that particular thing when we mentioned it to you. So if you want to bring it back in, now we either need another appointment, or we're going to have to, put it to the end of the line, or whatever that is.
Yeah, so pre and post scans available now with our Diesel Health platform.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bunch of our tools connected to it, right? I know we got the decoder. I know we got DXP. I believe Kajali's there. I know Texas coming online. The Diesel tablet. There's a whole bunch of tools we have, and they literally take like 60 seconds, 90 seconds to do a pre and post scan, and it's nothing a technician even needs to do. Whoever's writing the truck up or making that repair order can go out there and plug a tool in and smash a button real quick. It's not an overly complicated process. And the interesting thing too is that we tied in with this tool that's not, we don't talk about it a lot, we will be here in the future, and obviously today, is emission tampering detection. So there is a lot of deleted trucks out there. How often did you guys run across these deleted trucks, or how did you handle it? Because it creates a lot of problems working on a deleted truck, both legally and just the repair process, putting yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah, so we actually, I think we caught a lot of them, through various means, but I think there were others that slipped through. If it came in and they had a concern with maybe their tail lights or brakes or something, there might not have been a reason for us to even find out that it's been deleted. But the number of times where we were maybe a couple hours into a project trying to diagnose, and then you find out that they got something, blocked off, or there's a washer welded in a hot pipe, or whatever it is, and you discover and go, well, not only is this ultimately the root cause of the problem, but it also now means that we've got a deleted truck in the shop. And our policy for years was nothing with a delete could come in for any reason. So it didn't matter if it was engine or emission related, we would have to turn it away. So being able to identify that quickly, like with our emission tampering device during that initial write-up session, and that's how we did it at the dealership. It was the service writer that would actually go out in the yard and collect the information on the vehicle to generate the repair order. That was the person that was getting the pre-scan. So at that same time, we never had the ability to just press a button and run a delete detector. If we could have had that conversation right up front with the customer, let them know that we're wise to the situation and what needs to happen, versus now it's been in the shop. We've got some billable hours involved, and we're not going to service the truck at this point. So now we want them to pay and take it down the road. Those, again, were never fun conversations as a shop manager. Most of the time, they didn't want to pay for the time we had into it because we weren't going to offer them any solution. We did come up with kind of a workaround down, several years in, where as long as we knew about it, the customer had the option to sign some documentation it was a hold harmless agreement. But even still, there was always a reluctance to get involved because they've paid money to have the truck put in this condition. We're obligated to put it back to the way it came from the factory. So we still would never touch an engine or exhaust system, emission system ever, but we would at least be able to say, we can fix your tail light. We'll do that, but you have to make sure that you've signed this documentation. So I don't know if that's becoming more of an industry standard now, but at least it was where I was at, and it allowed us to help some customers that were in bad situations. But again, if it was anything to do with the delete or an engine that had been deleted, we turned it away just on principle.
Yeah, I mean, it puts the repair shop in a hard position, right? Because if I'm a repair shop, the vehicle comes in, I don't know it's tampered with, I'm going through the troubleshooting, it's like flash ECM to latest calibration level, and I flash it, all of a sudden now the whole emission deletion is gone. My truck's a Christmas tree light basically on the dash, probably won't even go in gear, probably won't even move. And it's just stuck there. Now who's paying the bill?
Yeah, and I actually had that happen to me more than once, where as part of the diagnostic procedure, we flashed an ECM, and that was how we found out it was deleted. The most recent one was kind of interesting because the customer claimed they had no knowledge of this. It wasn't them. They bought it that way. So obviously we should have known and not flashed their ECM. But in the process of trying to figure out what to do, because, for us, it was just a no-go, we actually recorded the truck out of the shop and parked it in the parking lot and said, well, you need to figure out what to do. They were somehow miraculously able to take the ECM and return it to us, reprogrammed back to where it would work on the truck. So for someone who has absolutely no knowledge of where to have an activity like that completed, they were able to turn it around in about a day. So, I get they didn't want to admit to it, but at the same time, they put us in a bind. It wasn't a good situation for any of us.
Yeah, it's always people are going to do what people are going to do, right? But I really think now that we've combined the emission tampering detection with the pre and post scan, literally less than 2 minutes to hook up and have answers so you can make decisions on these and what you want to do. So beyond that, let's talk about in the shop a little bit. We get a lot of people buying diagnostic tools from us. We're always talking to them about like you need to charge your customer diagnostic fees.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So tell me how it worked at when you ran shops with diagnostic fees and just machine fees in general.
Yeah, so we didn't really call it a diagnostic charge. We called it a machine fee. So if we hooked a computer up and ran any sort of diagnostic session, it tacked on a fee. Air conditioning is another prime example of a machine fee. So if we got to recover Freon and recharge a system, there's a machine fee that goes with that. So those fees are really industry standard, and anybody who's missing out on that revenue stream is missing out for sure. But also, it's designed to help offset some of the cost of this equipment. You've got to maintain the licenses for your software. There's a fee with that. There's a annual maintenance and repairs that are going to happen with an AC machine. So it helps to offset some of that and actually be trackable. At the same time, you got to be careful, because just because you've had to hook a computer up multiple times doesn't necessarily mean you get multiple diagnostic charges or multiple machine fees. So you got to make sure that the way that you're billing and presenting it to your customer is such. But I really didn't find anybody in the last 8 years at least that was like, no, I don't pay machine fees, or I don't understand what this is. It's definitely got to the point, at least in the heavy duty world, where people understand it, they kind of expect it, and it's worthwhile for the shop to invest in. I mean, same with like environmental charges or waste disposal fees. Those things have been around forever. Some shops choose not to because they think they can absorb it, or however that is. But margins get pretty tight in the shop. Labor's expensive. Shop space is expensive, and it's just one of those ways where sometimes you got to pass that along to the customer. As long as you're transparent about it, it's called out on the invoice. It actually states what it is. Not usually a lot of pushback.
Yeah. What do you know, like what the average is, or what people are typically charging for like hooking up a laptop to do some diagnostic stuff?
I've seen anywhere from $50 to $100 per, and sometimes it's different. So like the computer diagnostic might be $100, and the AC machine fee might be $50. So it just kind of depends on what your market would allow and what your customers are comfortable with. But the main thing is you can't charge it to one customer and not another. It's got to become part of your shop culture and part of your organization, so that there's not a situation where one customer is being taken advantage of and another one isn't. So as long as it's cut and dry, it's across the board. It gets put on every invoice. Shop supply is another one. That one's even more common. I think it was around well before. So covering expenses of shop towels and cleaners and whatever else it is. A lot of times, that's going to be something somebody's going to try to pick apart in your invoice. But again, when you can say every single customer, every single repair order since the beginning of this organization has had this fee on it, there's not going to be an exception today. Yeah. It's typically goes away pretty quickly.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to also improve efficiency with the technician himself. Mm-hmm. And that becomes them actually being better at diagnosing and fixing the things that are in front of them. So I remember being a service manager so many times. Guys have 8, 12, 14 hours into tracing some electrical gremlin down or a vibration issue. I remember when we worked at Superior Truck, I think we had a truck there for like 2 months trying to find a vibration issue, doing all kinds of stuff with. And that's really what we learned, I think, some of the diagnostic tools is just handing that tool to someone doesn't make him any better of a technician. It gives him a little bit more information. But the missing piece is still they got to be trained on how to properly diagnose these things. And there's not a lot of opportunities in the marketplace for continuing education for diesel technicians, which is why we did diesel training.
Yeah.
So I know we got a new online platform. I know what the class is. How's things going over there? And what kind of feedback do you get from the technicians that are in these things?
Yeah. So Diesel Laptop University, our new online training platform is, it's been out for a few months now. We launched it right at the beginning of August or late July. So far, we've got over 1,300 people signed up and taking courses on there. So we are starting to generate some feedback. I've seen nothing negative come through. It doesn't mean that, somebody had a thought and didn't report it, but there is a button they can mash right in there to give feedback. And so far, it's been very positive. With the understanding that this is a new platform and it's going to grow and evolve, and we're going to add more and more and more to it. But right now, we aim to add at least 2 new premium courses every month. That's been scheduled out now. I mean, we've got a production schedule through June of next year, and that'll continue to grow and get extended out as we move along. But the stuff we're focused on hot and heavy to start with is all about diagnostics. It's all about the systems and things that people seem to have the most trouble with. So after treatment has always been a real big hit for us, both in classroom, field training. It doesn't matter what it is. That's where people are focused because guess what? That's where most of the trouble is with the modern vehicles. The engines have gotten really, really strong, really, really reliable. It's the peripheral systems usually that are the issue. So we started our focus with the online platform there. We'll continue to evolve that and get into some more, basic 101 type stuff for like an entry-level technician. We've got some heavy product-focused stuff. So the diagnostic tools that we sell, we've got some of that out there today. We've got more of that in development. So whether it's how to use the tool better or what you can learn about the systems, what does this type of fault code represent, we're trying to cover those bases and make sure that the information that previously you maybe had to be sponsored or you had to work at an OEM dealership to get that information. But bottom line, our customers report back that they know that they have to invest in their workforce. I know that, you know that. If you're not investing in your people, you probably aren't going to keep them. And there's just not enough good technicians to go around. You can't really afford to let them walk over the fact that you're not investing in them or you think that the paycheck is enough. You got to have a plan for them for the future. You got to be able to take them from entry level all the way to master level. And the steps in between are important. So learning basic functions of a diagnostic tool is one thing, but knowing, what ohms and amps are and how they affect and what does it mean for the sensor values and how to test if the sensor is good or bad versus just throwing parts at the project. It's huge because the kind of the pitfall of being a less experienced technician is they tend to try to fix symptoms. They have a symptom that they're attacking. That's what the customer came in and mentioned to them. But that doesn't solve the problem. You got to be able to figure out what the root cause is and address it. So as their careers advance, they understand that a little bit better, and usually it's because they've had a lot of chargebacks, a lot of stuff recycled back to them because they thought they had it and turnaround came right in. But as they evolve and they grow and they start to identify root causes, we have training for that too. Get them all the way into the root of the problem so they're not just swapping parts out. They're not, wasting valuable customer time and dollars, increasing that throughput and efficiency by diagnosing it correctly the first time. And in a lot of shops, mine was that way. You'd have your diagnostic techs wouldn't be the guys that made the repair in a lot of cases. So they need to be able to determine what's actually wrong with it, get the parts request in, and once that job is approved, changing the part can be handed off to somebody else. Well, guess what? That guy needs to know how to read a schematic, or maybe he needs to know how to follow the repair and replace instructions. But we definitely have to be able to give that information to them because people aren't born knowing how to fix stuff.
Yeah, and I think you hit a lot of key points here. One of the things I didn't understand when I was growing up through working at dealerships, I didn't view training as like a great thing. I viewed it as like, this is an expense. Now I'm going to lose a technician for a while. And by the way, he's going to get certified. Now he's going to come back and ask for a raise. I'm like, what am I really accomplishing here? But I see it much differently now, I think, as I've gotten older and understand it more. And I think you're absolutely right, too, on the retention side of it. You mentioned that. I mean, that is a big piece of it. Employees generally want to stay with companies where they're appreciated and they have career opportunities and they enjoy working. And having training opportunities to better their skills is great. There's a gentleman today in our conference room doing some meetings. He owns a local repair shop. He says he has 4 of his guys in training this week with us. Mm-hmm. That's a big hit for him this week. He's taking a revenue hit by not having them there. But he understands, he actually used the word retention, and he started talking about, hey, we're going to put a training program together for 2024 with the online stuff you guys have and the in-classroom stuff. And I know my guys are going to be better for it. I know they're going to stick around. So it's funny how time changes the perception on things a little bit, but I think he's right.
He's absolutely right. And, it's different today. Back when you and I were doing this many, many years ago, technician training were little booklets that the OEM would supply, and the guys would have to fill them in at home and mail them back to get scored, and that was how they'd get their certifications. It's a whole different world now with online training and, some of these in-person options like we offer at our training centers, our field training where we'll go to the, he could have shut his shop down today and actually had us come to him too, right? He invested even deeper and decided to travel his folks around and get them over here for the day. But to be able to have those options and be able to invest that in your workforce is massive. It's a short-term hit for a long-term payback.
Yeah, when I was talking to him in there, he's like, wait a second, I get all my renewals, I get unlimited call into your call center with your technicians, I get unlimited online training, unlimited classroom training, and repair information. He goes, this is the best deal I've ever gotten for what I pay a year with you guys.
Total solution. That's what we aim for.
Yep, 100%. So, Dan, it's been great having you come on here. I think we could sit here and talk about shops and all the things that happen inside a shop. It's weird. There's not many people on the planet that find this fascinating and interesting, but there's two of us sitting right here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I don't think either one of us started our career journey thinking it would be anything like this, but I know that we definitely developed a passion for it and enjoyed it. You know, I'm thrilled to talk to just about anybody, which is part of what I do for this company. I try to represent these things. But yeah, certainly, I mean, we can go for hours and maybe we should do a part 2 at some point, but definitely, you know, appreciate everybody who watches these videos and know that this industry needs all of us. So keep going.
So if there's a particular subject you'd like to talk about in the repair process or in the mobile operations or whatever it is, just drop it in the comments. Love to hear back what people want to hear us talk about. We could sit here all day and talk about things, but it's really what you guys want to hear. So let us know that. Otherwise, like, comment, share, subscribe. All those things help us tremendously. We're going to wrap this episode. Remember, it's not just diagnostics done right, but you got to know how to run your shop. You got to be able to have all these efficiencies. All these little things add up to a really big thing at the end of the day when you're running a repair shop. So thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.